अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मेंटल हेल्थ, कोविड-19 और फ्यूचर के टॉपिक के सिलसिले के दूसरे प्रोग्राम के साथ मैं हूं दूर शहवार। आज हम मेंटल हेल्थ के एक बहुत कॉमन लेकिन अहम कंसर्न पे बात करेंगे, जो है डिप्रेशन। डिप्रेशन, एंटी डिप्रेसेंट्स का इस्तेमाल और इसकी वजह से पैदा होने वाली थॉट्स, सेल्फ हार्मिंग थॉट्स या सुसाइडल आइडिएशन, स्पेशली विद रेफरेंस टू यंग पीपल। इस कोविड-19 की मौजूदा सूरत हाल ने जहाँ मेंटल हेल्थ के सारे एस्पेक्ट्स को मुतासिर किया है, वहाँ हमारी यूथ के जो नफ्सियाती मसाइल हैं उनमें बहुत ज़्यादा इजाफा हुआ है। और डिप्रेशन जो कि पहले से ही कॉमन था, अब एंटी डिप्रेसेंट्स के इस्तेमाल में भी मजीद इजाफा हुआ है। तो इस सिलसिले में आज हम बात करेंगे कि क्या लिंक है डिप्रेशन का, एंटी डिप्रेसेंट्स का, और कैसे an excessive usage of antidepressant can cause सेल्फ हार्म एंड सुसाइडल थॉट्स इन आर यंग पीपल। और आज के प्रोग्राम में मेरे दो मेहमान हैं। पहले हिस्से में हमारे साथ किम कलिन होंगी, जो इस सिलसिले में होने वाली एक हालिया रिसर्च को हमारे साथ शेयर करेंगी। प्रोग्राम के दूसरे हिस्से में हमारे साथ मल्टीकल्चरल यूथ सेंटर से शेख अबू हमजा हमें ज्वाइन करेंगे, जो कम्युनिटी लीडर हैं, इमाम हैं, और ये हमें बताएंगे कि इस तरह के नफ्सियाती मसाइल पर रिलीजियस पर्सपेक्टिव क्या होना चाहिए, और किस तरह से in the light of teaching of Islam we can help someone who is going through depression or having thoughts of self-harm. So I would want to welcome once again Kim Cullen, Executive Director, Citizen Commission on Human Rights. Thank you very much, Kim, for joining us once again, and welcome.
And thank you very much for having me. And it's great being back on your show again.
Thank you. So Kim, we were having a discussion about that research paper that was just released about the usage of antidepressant among young Australians, and how this usage of antidepressants can be linked to suicidal thoughts and ideation among young Australians. Would you please tell us something more about that research article?
Yeah, I can do that. I read this paper and it's very enlightening, but it's also very scary. And I've just got a few slides for you. So if you could look at the first slide. It's really important. I just want to put in a disclaimer for us before we start. I just want to say that if anybody is on antidepressants, don't just all of a sudden think, oh my God, I need to, goodness me, I need to go off these drugs right now because they're really dangerous. Because it can be more dangerous to go off the drugs straight away. So if you are on antidepressants and you want to get off the drugs, then you need to go and see your doctor, and you need with your doctor, work with your doctor to actually get weaned off these drugs. Because what can happen is that there's a withdrawal symptom that can occur when a person goes off these antidepressants, because they're very, very strong drugs. And the person can have actually a worsening of their symptoms. So I just wanted to go over some of this paper with you. It was written in, it was released in June this year, and it was written by a Member of Parliament in Western Australia, Martin Whiteley, Melissa Raven, who is a research writer, and also Dr. John Giardini, who is a South Australian psychiatrist. And the paper actually goes very thoroughly into explaining the link between suicide and antidepressants. Now, way back in 2004, the US drug regulatory body, they're called the Food and Drug Administration, they put out a very, very strong warning, which is called a black box warning that there's, and it's actually like a black box, thing on the box, and it says black box warning, and it's the highest form of warning to let people know that there's a link between suicide and antidepressants under 18 years of age. Now, in 2007, they upgraded this warning to also include young adults from 25 years and under. So in Australia, we have what's called the Therapeutic Goods Administration, and that is our agency that regulates and approves the drugs that come into Australia. and they put out their own warning. Now, what happened then, Duru, was totally unprecedented, because when a warning like this is put out, people take note of it, because this is scientific research that's been done on these drugs. They've done trials and things like this. But what happened was that some of the prominent US and Australian mental health organisations and psychiatrists challenged the warning. And they argued that antidepressants were more likely to reduce suicide. So as a result of that, the antidepressant use increased. And we have another slide later on which I'll show you that it shows that there's a link between the antidepressants and the suicide. After this happened, the paper was introduced into Parliament by one of our local MPs, a Member of Parliament, Mr. Julian Hill, and he's up in the Bruce area. So if you live in Dandenong, in that sort of area, he is your Member of Parliament. And he said this. He said, the fact is that despite more than a decade of focus, youth suicide rates in Australia are still rising. The outcome that really matters is going in the wrong direction. And he goes on to say there can be no sacred cows or practices that can't be challenged. Now, what that means is that it's time we challenged these mental health experts, the experts and the psychiatrists who are saying that these antidepressants help people. And this is what Julian Hill actually said in Parliament, which was really fantastic, you know, a big win for us.
So what happened after that? Is there going to be any investigation into the matter and the associated link between the two?
Well, we hope there is. The next slide is shows us that there was a newspaper article not long after he spoke in Parliament, and the Health Minister, Greg Hunt, he actually said that there was going to be, he ordered a review about this study where there is a link between suicide and antidepressants. However, we've not seen any review that started as yet, although I don't really expect to see anything much happening at the moment with this COVID situation, because everyone has their attention on that, and people, you know, sort of need to be aware. And I think this is why this is a really fantastic opportunity for us to share this sort of information, because you're not going to see this in the major media. So I think it's really important that we share this with your community, and especially with your religious beliefs and how you actually treat this. And I know the Sheikh's coming in on later on to explain this to us, because people think, you know, suicide is really bad, and absolutely it is really bad. But having those thoughts, if a person is on antidepressants, the thoughts can actually become and be made worse from the actual drugs that they're on. So before a person decides to go on to antidepressants, they really need to very thoroughly do the research and look at other alternatives. And I know we're going to be talking about that later on with the other guests that you have.
We have some other slides to share that kind of shed some light on the prevalence and usage of the drugs. So how has the COVID-19's this situation has affected the use of psychiatric drugs, the people that normally rush towards psychiatric treatment and usage of drugs for anxiety and depression and other psychological issues?
It's interesting that you should ask that, Dura, because it's, you know, I think it's something like 78.
We have some statistics in front of us.
Yeah, we have this graph here, this statistic, but 78% of the drugs, the psychiatric drugs that are prescribed, the anti-anxiety and the antidepressants and other sorts of drugs, are actually prescribed by our GPs, and they're unwittingly prescribed by our GPs. So I really doubt, you know, because of this earlier paper that we were referring to, they think that antidepressants are safe because they've been told that they're safe, so they don't have the true facts. That's why it's very important we get this inquiry underway. So what we've found is that this actual graph takes us to the end of June, and it shows a very steep rise right at the end there. And that's a comparable rate of increase the same time last year as this year. There was a 31% increase in the use of antidepressants and the prescriptions of antidepressants. And there was a 22% increase in antidepressant prescriptions written just in that period of time. So a lot more people, 1 in 5 more people have actually been going to their doctor and being prescribed antidepressants during this COVID-19 period of time that we've been in. And that is incredibly sad that that's happening, because people need to look that there are other alternatives. And like I said, we're going to look at some of those alternatives with how your community deals with that very soon. Have we got time?
Yeah, and if we look at these statistics, there is more increase in antidepressant as compared to the other categories of drugs.
Yes, there is, and that's this is from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, but this actual statistic takes us to 2018 because that's the most recent ones we actually currently have at the moment. And this actually comes from that paper that I referred to you earlier. And according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, 279 Australians died under the age of 25. That is a huge amount of young people lost. They committed suicide, died by suicide in 2009. And in 2018, less than 10 years later, we have almost a double increase of that. So that when you look at the increase in the drugs and then the increase in the suicide, the graph's like this. It's like, sorry, going upwards. It's very hard to show like this. So we need to, here's the actual graph on this, which shows that. So we need to really, the first part, what we're looking at is the blue section down the bottom. That's children 0 to 14 years old. Now, Doro, for me, it's like if a child even contemplates the thought of committing suicide, that is absolutely horrendous. But for young children younger than 14, and then in the orange section, that is 15 to 19-year-olds. That's our teenagers in their, just starting to learn about life. And the grey area is the 20 to 24-year-olds. So you can see that there was a huge increase in people. Now, the other thing that I really want to point out here that probably a lot of people don't know is that these antidepressant drugs have not been approved at all for anyone under 18. So when they are prescribed by the doctor, it is called off-label prescribing. So the doctor is doing it on his own cognizance that he feels that that is the best thing to do. But once again, the doctors are doing this unwittingly. They have been educated to believe that it's better to give them the antidepressant than to have the risk of suicide, whereas that is not the case at all. So I hope there's going to be a lot of people going to their doctors, and I hope the doctors are very well prepared on how to actually very, very slowly wean any one of these young people off these drugs. And I really need to stress this because it's so important, Doreen, that if anyone who's watching this or if you know anyone who's on an antidepressant, please do not just stop taking that antidepressant. Do not just stop. It doesn't matter what anyone says to you, because the dangers of you stopping can be worse than you being on them. So you need to get a competent medical doctor, someone who understands how to get a person off these drugs, and it's actually a weaning situation. So you go off a little bit at a time.
Exactly. And weaning is the right word.
Yeah, absolutely. So
thank you. These statistics, they're quite confirmatory of the fact that how depression is prevailing not only in the young people, but also how the usage and excessive usage of psychiatric drugs is leading to even worse outcomes. That's why, thank you very much for sharing these details and giving us an insight into this important issue that our youth is facing. So that's why we have another honorable guest with us tonight. Um, I would want to welcome Sheikh Abu Hamza from Multicultural Youth Center. Do we have Sheikh with us?
Yes, how are you? Hopefully, all you guys are having a great night.
Assalamu alaikum, brother, and thank you very much for joining us. I welcome you on behalf of Pakistani Welfare Organization Australia. Thank you
I'm
very
o-
much for taking some time out for us because we know how busy you are. I'm
Thank,
very witness to the fact as well, actually.
thank you very much.
So,
I'm privileged to be amongst my family. Thank you very much.
Nice.
very warm welcome. Before, yeah, we have introduced we have introduced you both to each other in the beginning. Kim, do you wanted to say something? Did you want to say something?
No, I just I do after you finished your talk and you explain things, there is a couple of questions I have if we have time, because I would like to know how you're dealing with your youth in your communities, and what tactics that you take to actually help them and address their problems. But if we don't have time for that, that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, well, definitely. If we are not running short of the time, we will definitely get into those details. And actually, I would request Sheikh Abu Hamza at the end to tell us a bit about My Center Support Services. They have this great platform to help young people who are going through different psychological issues, especially with relation to drugs and addiction. Sheikh Abu Hamza is very directly connected to the community, especially to the youth, and mashallah, he's doing a tremendous work to keep our youth engaged in something positive and something constructive and channelizing their energies in positive stuff through social engagement and not letting them just go with the thoughts of that youth age that can be very harming and at times. So Sheikh Abu Hamza, I would want to ask you, since you have a direct connection with the community and especially youth, and Multicultural Youth Center is providing youth with a lot of opportunities. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we are restricted now, but it has always been like that. And even during these times, you have been doing a tremendous work through the online platforms. What's your observation of the mental health issues in the young segment of community?
Okay, first of all, Bismillah, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. Again, I'm overwhelmed and pleased to be amongst my family. We have to be realistic. Mental health does exist. Many people don't acknowledge that, they don't believe in that. And because of that, many people do suffer, especially the youth. One thing that we need to recognize, especially us as Muslims, that God the Almighty has created us to be tested. So life is a test. So once a person recognizes that, then they'll know that if they are going through a trial or difficulties, then first of all, Allah will only put you through a test which you are capable of handling. And there's a beautiful saying of our beloved Prophet, which he has said, إِذَا أَحَبَّ اللَّهُ عَبْدَ ابْتَلَى. If Allah loves a slave, he puts them through trials. So once a person contemplates that and understands that, then they will be able to overcome that problem by seeking medical help and seeking spiritual assistance.
So during this time, I know that you see youth, and there are a lot of youth from community. They approach you on a daily basis, actually, dozens
Yeah.
of them. What have you observed because of this lockdown, social isolation, loss of job, this just the whole disruption in the routine?
Yeah.
What have you observed in our youth in regards depression and other mental health issues?
I
Have you
have
seen an increase in it?
no doubt it's been devastating for the whole Melburnians, allow me to say, across the board, but especially the youth are usually up and about and they're very active. And now they've been restricted and they've been isolated. Many of them are engaging in drugs and alcohol, online gambling, unfortunately, violence at home. So I've never seen it like this. And we do our utmost best, speaking to them on the phone, and even every now and then we call some of them when we realize it's very dangerous for them to be at home. We try to defuse their anger and their frustration, and we give them high hope that hopefully that will come out of this COVID soon and we'll get back to normality. And we just basically encourage them to do greater acts of worship. We also have aid work here at my center. We provide food for Muslims and non-Muslims, so we get him involved. The most important thing for the youth is to actually, feel like he's part of the community. He's giving something. So when a person gives something, they feel confident within, and that's what we're trying to do, to occupy them. Also through our podcasting. Last week we spoke with Imam Bilal Assad. We spoke about what the youth are going through, and some people are taking advantage of them for them to protest and demonstrate and to cause some vandalism and some violence and to confront the police. So we've worked very hard to diffuse the situation, and we've been very successful in doing that. Our community listens to the imams, and they're not just imams, leaders in their prayer, they're also leaders in having some positive input on the youth. And we thank God the Almighty that the youth adhere to what we say, and there's been a lot of success out there. And all I'd say to the youth, please reach out. We're here for you. We praise God the Almighty day and night that He has placed us in this position to help you out. We all have our uppers and downers. Sometimes we go through a cycle, but I just want you to know that there's a lot of great people out there. Psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, imams, they're there for you. They would love to help you. And all I want you to do is basically to recognize that you have a problem and to reach out and seek help.
I was actually about to ask that please give us some idea, information about that My Center support services, the youth workers that work there and counselors. You have kind of partially actually answered that question already. So I would want to ask if someone, in the light of what we have been discussing with Kim, the depression and the treatment approaches, usage of antidepressant, and how it can cause these self-harming thoughts and suicidal ideation. So how would you advise the youth if someone is going through hard times and depression, and they, God forbid, they think of taking their lives themselves, or sometime they just engage into these thoughts which are not voluntary, it's because of the usage of drugs and some other factors. So if someone comes to the extent of harming themselves and taking their lives off voluntarily, in their full mind, or because of these altered state of consciousness because of this medication, how would you advise them in the light of Islamic teachings and what our deen has to say about this?
Well, first of all, our deen basically gives an honor to a human being, regardless who they are. God the Almighty has said in Al-Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam, verily we've honored the son of Adam. And the Prophet ﷺ said, لَا ضَرَرْ وَلَا ضِرَارْ, you are not to harm yourself or harm others. You're a trust from God. Okay, you've been created without your will, and your life will be taken without your will. So you're a trust. God has given you this soul, your body. So let's not abuse it, And at the end of the day, we need to recognize that God the Almighty has said an amazing verse in the Quran. He said a beautiful verse saying, "La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha." A person will only be tested depending on their ability. So regardless of the hardship that you're going through, respected brother and sister, God knows that you are capable of handling this test that you're going through. So let's not, take your life or think of harming yourself. This is not the solution. The solution that you come closer to God, ask God to relieve you from what you're going through. This is very, very important. As I said, right through the ages, people are going through, constant difficulties and trials and all that. And please, prayer to us is a way that you basically unleash your frustration and anger. That's why the Prophet ﷺ has said to one of the companions, he said, "Arihna biha ya Bilal." Oh Bilal, allow us to rest by prayer. In other words, Bilal, get up and call the people to pray so we can pray, so we can rest through it. Alhamdulillah, we Muslims also have antidepressant, besides obviously going to the doctors and counselors and all that. We have our prayers. We have our connection with God. The Prophet ﷺ said, whomever loves to meet God, God loves to meet him. So through our prayers, when you're prostrating, especially you're the closest to God, when you're in that position, ask him to help you, ask him to relieve you, associate with good people, be positive, be optimistic. Many people say, well, I'm better than that person, but try to be better than the person who's above you, not the person who's beneath you. Okay, so as I said, it's very important for us not to, just because our friends are engaging in drugs and alcohol and they find an easy way out, to escape from reality. Please, we have our own way to become high. Through our prayers, we feel, alhamdulillah, that spirit that it's going up. through recitation of the Quran, through helping others, through communicating with our parents, through respecting our parents, through being closer to your spouse, through being closer to your children. These are things that will make you confident, and it will knock out that thought of harming yourself or harming others, for that matter.
That's a very strong message you have there, and I think it's just very beautiful. And I think it applies to everybody, and I think everyone should take that on board. It doesn't matter what religion they are, or no religion, or wherever they are in this society, is that, you know, we are going through a trial at this point, and it's a very tough trial. Yes. And I think the strength of us is coming through the other end stronger, and knowing that we actually prevailed and we got through and we were able to help others get through this as well. So I would like to thank you very much for your message. It was very powerful.
No worries at all. Thank you.
And we would want to tell the people from our community, everyone, especially the youth who is struggling with their mental health issues or drug addiction. My center has this great network of support services. They have their counselors, their youth workers, and youth counselors who help with the people, and not only the people but their families as well, just to have a holistic approach to treatment and help them through counseling and faith-based counseling and these approaches to deal with the psychological issues, with depression. It can be drug and alcohol, all these sort of mental health issues. My center's support service team is a great team, and it's a very multi-dimensional team that can help with various aspects of life for the people who are going through these hardships. Thank you very much, Sheikh Abu Hamza. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you very much, Kim. Would you want to add something, or do you have to ask anything, as you mentioned earlier?
No,
or your question being answered already?
Definitely answered, and I would really like to thank you very much for having me on the show. And it's really a great opportunity to come and educate people on just another aspect of what's happening out there that they may not be aware of. And I just really like to once again point out that if you are on antidepressants, don't just stop taking them. But if you are, like someone's saying, that they're having suicidal thoughts, then I think you need to talk, you know, if you're part of this community, talk to your Imam, like the Sheikh just said, and go to one of your elders for help and get the direction that you need, because we'll be out of this soon. You know, that's my message, is like, I know we will be out of this soon, so we have to push through it and remain strong.
Right.
And
thank you very much.
So thank you.
Thank you. As being a member of the community, I would thank you, really thank you both for whatever the work you are doing for community. And also I would want to thank you once again on behalf of the team PWA for taking time out of your busy routines and joining us tonight. Thank you very much, Brother Sheikh Abu Hamza. Thank you very much, Kim Cullen.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Bye-bye.